当然等一下就可以就是开放大家的问题。但在这边在此之前的话，我这边第一个想要请教Vladimir的一个很重要的问题，就是我们刚才看到说，什么才是一个真正的一个解放嘛？那其实，在过去3年来，因为那个俄罗斯入侵乌克兰事件里面，我们可以看到说，像在欧盟，他们就提出了 Repower EU 这样的一个比较是加速能源转型，去摆脱对于俄罗斯化石燃料依赖的这样的一个策略。然后，甚至是近期来讲的话，我们当然虽然看到说，在乌克兰现在目前的电力结构里面，可能还有50%是来自于核能电厂。但是在乌克兰境内来讲的话，其实在过去3年里面，他们推动了很多在一些很重要的基础设施里面去装设光电加储能设施的一些做法，甚至是在整个欧洲，包含在是德国的一些政府单位支持之下，我们都还看到有一些renewable resilience for Ukraine 这样的一种大型专案去支持乌克兰当地在这个战争时候里面的所维持他们的能源韧性。所以我们想请那个你也可以再跟大家去分析一下说，那到底过去3年来的话，对于对于这个像欧洲这个层级是怎么样借由是加速能源转型的方式去摆脱对于俄罗斯化石燃料以及核燃料的一个依赖，因为他们在今年度5月份提出来的那个路径图里面，摆脱俄罗斯燃料依赖的路径图里面，其实就把核能燃料这个部分纳入其中，说不是只是不进口那个天然气而已，而是核燃料这个部分他们要摆脱相关的一个依赖。所以我想请那个Vladimir可以跟我们来分享一下这方面的一个观察。
Well, the question basically is how did, for example, EU as a whole accelerate its energy transformation to get rid of its reliance or its dependence on Russian nuclear energy? Because we know, for example, there's a Repower campaign, Repower EU campaign, and also we know that in Ukraine, even though 50% of its energy rely on nuclear plants, but in the past 3 years in Ukraine, they have accelerated the development in solar panels, and also in Germany, they have similar campaigns, etc. So the question in essence is, what is your take in the past 3 years? We are seeing all these efforts in European Union or in European countries. They are trying to accelerate the energy transformation to get rid of their dependence on Russian nuclear energy. What was your take and observance?
Well, let's say when the war in Ukraine started, the dependence on Russian fuel was very high. I'm not talking here only about nuclear, it's all kinds of fuel, it's a fossil fuel first of all, first European Union banned Russian coal entirely. There are no countries in Europe who buy coal from Russia anymore. Some coal from Russia, by the way, coming to Taiwan. Companies here, like Formosa, for example, buying a lot. And we calculated that every month, Taiwanese companies, mostly Formosa, every month paying about 40 million of American dollars to Russia for coal. And this money is used for war in Ukraine, unfortunately. Well, Europe banned Russian coal entirely. It's not getting it anymore. And it's difficult with gas and oil. But because the pipeline, natural gas pipeline, the Nord Stream, was blown up, well, it's still not clear who exactly did it, but because of it, the export of Russian natural gas to Europe greatly decreased. There is, the main Russian gas company, which is governmental, Gazprom, now having losses, very big losses, and it's for the first time in history happening like this. For obvious reason, right? Because usually Russia would sell a lot of natural gas to different countries, and it all would be done by Gazprom, so it would always be a very profitable company. Now it's having losses, very, very big losses. Because Russia cannot redirect its natural gas. It's even technically it's very difficult. And with nuclear fuel, or you want to translate this?
好，那我先讲一下就是欧洲的现况好了。目前呢，欧洲我们知道，因为俄乌战争的关系，所以像是俄国它其实 战争刚开始的时候呢，与其说我们依赖这个乌克兰依赖核能，其实是俄国的化石燃料，其实在欧洲的能源整个的生产能源还是占有一席之地。那像是俄国的煤，那现在欧洲各国已经制裁，就是俄国的煤在欧洲他们是没有办法就是出口给这些欧洲国家，但是我们台湾的台塑还有在买，我们每个月有大概4000万美金就是在买俄国的煤，那这些钱呢，当然就是让俄国政府然后拿去就是做军火去打乌克兰。那再来在欧洲，那你说俄国它除了煤，还有像是石油跟天然气，那这部分因为像 Nord Stream 就是他们的天然气管线被炸了，谁炸了不知道，但是就变成说俄罗斯它要出口这些天然气，包括它本来是用这个搭很多的管线，还有像港口，那因为这些设施其实被神秘的摧毁，又不知道是谁弄的，那所以现在呢，就是在俄罗斯他们的天然气公司发生了史无前例，所以它开始赔钱。因为以往呢，就是俄罗斯他们的天然气是很赚钱的，因为每个国家都是跟他买。但是他最近的情况是，他们开始赔钱，因为他这个天然气管线被炸了，就是运不出去。
When it comes to nuclear fuel, it's very different because, well, every company that is building nuclear reactors around the world is producing nuclear fuel for those reactors, you know, for certain types. And I mean, usually it doesn't work like you can take fuel for American reactor and put inside a Russian reactor. No, it's not going to work. At the same time, there is no free market over nuclear fuel. Basically, if you agreed, if you as a country agreed to build a French reactor or American or Russian reactor, you would have, very likely, you will have to buy fuel all the time, all 60 years or whatever reactor will be running from this country only and from this company only, because only them know the technology how to produce fuel elements.
那再来，如果讲到这个核燃料啊，就是那核燃料的话，我必须说它不是一个自由市场，完全不是。那不太可能说哦，你跟美国买燃料来放进一个你请俄国来盖的这个反应炉里面，不是这样子运作的。你如果请某一个国家某一个公司，你买它的厂牌的这个不是买，应该说你建造了就是某一国科技支援的这个核电厂，通常你的这个核燃料也都要跟同一个厂来买的，因为他们是绑定的，所以。像是不管是法国、俄国，其实皆然都是如此。那有的一把就是60年以上。
So the situation is very complicated in Europe with nuclear fuel because they still have 19 nuclear reactors that were built by Soviet engineers very long time ago, and it's only Russia where they can buy fuel for it. And those countries that have these 19 reactors have a very high portion or share of nuclear in their energy balance.
那在欧洲呢，现在是有19座这个反应炉呢，它其实当年这个苏维埃的工程师帮他们盖的。那这19座反应炉的国家，就是目前他也只好跟俄国继续买这些核燃料。那他们这些国家呢，其实也相当程度，他们国内呢核发电的占比也是相对比较高的。
So basically, when the war in Ukraine started and the European Union started to talk about how to get rid of a dependence on Russia, I believe, well, technically the most complicated thing is with nuclear fuel because there is no alternative suppliers of this fuel, and those countries that have these old nuclear reactors built by Soviet engineers, they do not agree to shut them down. It's like really a lot of energy for them. It's relatively small countries, and they wouldn't know how to replace it. There is a process going on with American Westinghouse, who is trying to produce fuel that would fit into old Soviet reactors. Because they had the technology, they had the access to this technology in Ukraine, because Ukraine got the same old Soviet reactors.
那所以如果再回到我们刚刚讲这个能源转型，假设你转型能不能就是解开这个结？那其实，在欧洲呢就没有办法，因为就变成说，如果你仰赖这些俄国它所做的核电厂的反应炉，那你就只好仰赖它的核燃料。所以这些国家他们没有办法去关闭他们国内这些核电厂，因为他们依然还是必须使用这个核电。刚刚讲的它的核电的占比还是相对高的。那现在呢是有一个美国的公司，他们在研究说有没有可能去研发新的这个核燃料，就是让它可以有点像是也可以去注入、去应用在这些俄国制的核电厂里面，因为他们是从这个乌克兰的这个反应炉去研究出来的。
But even if they're working on this for more than 3 years, and even if they promised already to deliver fuel this year, they couldn't really do this so far. I mean, it technologically is extremely complicated thing to do, and it's not clear when Westinghouse will be capable of, replacing this Russian fuel, and that is a very good illustration of the dependence you get into if you cooperate with some country in terms of construction of nuclear reactors. You're dependent on some country with delivering nuclear fuel, because if for some reason, let's imagine a situation, you've got someone building nuclear reactors on your territory and then supplying fuel, and then something happens, Donald Trump is kind of really special, right? Nobody really understands what's going to happen tomorrow to him, what's he going to say, what kind of idea he get. And now imagine you have American nuclear power plant, and Donald Trump, for some reason, became angry at you. What are you going to do? If they stop delivering you nuclear fuel, what are you going to do? The only thing you can do to shut down nuclear power plant if you have to, right? But in this case, you lose immediately a very big amount of energy. You cannot really replace it from any other sources. Such dependence make you extremely weak politically in relations with those countries that supplying these technologies to you. Basically, those countries can manipulate you, and you cannot really do anything unless you shut down nuclear power plant and sit without electricity. On the opposite, think about renewable energy. It will be it's owned by you, it's produced right here, you don't need anyone to deliver it to you, it doesn't require any fuel, you're not buying anything anywhere, it's already here. Yes, maybe right now we don't yet have a technology to provide 100% of renewable energy, but the world is going this way. I believe it should be possible quite soon. And the storage is developing, and a new, more efficient turbines appearing. And I think this is where we should go. Renewable energy is very important. I think it will be possible, I want to believe it should be possible for Taiwan to provide itself with, to cover energy needs from renewable energy. That would be most sustainable and the safest, also from political point of view.
那刚刚讲到这个美国的这个新型核燃料开发公司，其实它3年前就是俄乌战争开始之后就开始说我要投入这个计划要研发，但其实到现在他们也还没有做出来。就是你从美国要说做一个新的燃料，那让你可以不用再仰赖、不用再依赖这个俄罗斯它所提供的这个核燃料，现在还没有下文，还没有做好。那所以假设我们先不要想俄乌，也不要想说我们隔壁的邻居就来打，不要想，我们先想说，假设台湾我们买的这个我们的反应炉都是美国做的，那今天他们的总统是川普，那川普他是一个很难预测的人物是吧？那假设他有一天说我不喜欢你，就是我不想把我们的核燃料卖给你，那怎么办？我们的反应炉如果是美国做的，我们只能用他们的核燃料的话，那他不卖的时候，那我们是不是瞬间就失去了这部分这个生产核电的能力？那假设又刚好它核能占这个国家产电那相对高的占比，等于说如果它扣住这个我不出口核燃料，等于就是掐住你的喉咙。那这时候在地缘政治上来说，你只能当小弟啦，就只能听他说 OK， 那我什么时候你要达成我什么条件，我什么时候才能卖你核燃料？所以这就是一种地缘政治上的依赖，这个依赖就会因为这个核燃料在之间它扮演的角色会成立。那如果我们有可再生能源，那由此来看，你可再生能源它不需要仰赖谁来卖给你出口这些风或者是阳光给你，它其实就在你旁边，在天上，在海上，在地上，所以你不 需要去进出口，没有人会管这些风或者阳光有没有给到你。那如果现在还没有100%就是成为可再生能源，就是100%使用可再生能源的技术，但是指日可待的话，其实这也是全球趋势所趋。那包括说可再生能源它的储存的技术持续在发展，或者有朝一日真的就是可以就是供应就是100%就是台湾所需的电力的时候，我认为就是能源转型走向可再生能源，我真的觉得在政治上也是一个比较有趣的方法。
And I mean, you know, Trump is one thing. Maybe he will be gone in 3 years, and we all will, you know, be happy about it. But I mean, like, okay, China, you know yourself better than me. Russia, I mean, the president is the guy who is not going to go anywhere until he will be dead. And I'm serious. He will not go anywhere. He will be a president as long as he's alive. I mean, this guy is starting like a huge bloody wars for years for no reason. Nobody attacked him. Nobody threatened him. You know, how are you going to threaten a country with nuclear weapon and the largest on yours? I mean, who is crazy enough to do it? I mean, obviously we have a pretty much crazy person running a huge country with a nuclear weapon. I mean, I don't know how about you, I'm scared, but what can we do about it? But just like imagine, you know, I'm just trying to say there are these people, unfortunately, ruling different countries of the world. Oh my God, you know, I just hope they not gonna, you know, destroy the whole world at some moment of time. But I mean, like being dependent, especially with nuclear technology, on those countries, I think is extremely risky as well.
那比如说像是川普好了，即便他是一个很难预测的狂人，但是他反正做到第2任了嘛，了不起在3年吧，他就下台了，他不会再当美国总统了。但是我们隔壁的邻居来习大大，或者说是再远一点俄国，老实说，俄国的普丁，我认为他可能就是他会做到死，他应该就是不会卸下他现在这个总统这个职责，他应该会继续的在位。那假设说这种就是一个强人或者独裁，他就是掌握这么大一个国家，而且是拥有核武的国家，你可以说是命悬一线吧，就是他手上的那一条线，他要不要按那个钮？所以你说像俄国，他最近打这个战争，他其实也没有人去敢威胁或者攻击俄国，他就是一个不请自来，他直接就是去入侵乌克兰的战争，没有人会笨到想要去攻击一个就是手上握有这么多核武的一个国家啊。但是对他来说，就是他就是要打就是要打。所以我认为在核能或者核燃料，一旦你对某一个国家所制造的这个反应炉产生的依赖的时候，其实来到地缘政治，你很难预测谁会当领导，甚至他的这个领袖会发生什么事。那这时候其实这样子的依赖在地缘政治上都是相当有风险的一件事情。我想台湾跟中国的情况，各位应该比我还了解。
Now, Repower EU, renewable energy in Europe. I mean, look, I moved because I was criticized war in Ukraine. I had to leave Russia, otherwise I would go to jail. I mean, I came to. I'm now living in Europe. I don't know forever or not. Well, I hope one day we'll be able to come back to Russia. Anyway, I think. At least some countries, if not the whole European Union, is doing great in renewable energy. And I mean, some of my European colleagues are criticizing, they're saying, you know, it's not enough. And I think, yeah, it's always better to have more renewable energy. In this regard, I agree. But just like look at the situation with, for example, Germany. About 25 years ago, they got the law on phasing out nuclear power. It didn't happen when Fukushima happened. It was happening before. The law was approved around the year 2000. At the same time, the legislation on development of renewable energy was approved. And it was designed from the very beginning, the way that they develop renewable energy and the step-by-step shutting down their nuclear reactors. They had 17. They were providing, 25 years ago, they were providing a third of their energy need from nuclear power. Now it's 0. And now the share of renewable energy is about half, about roughly 50%. This is what they achieved in just 25 years. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. I remember like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people from nuclear industry or from any other industries would be saying like, oh, Germany will never do this. It's impossible for a big industrialized countries, it's impossible to survive without nuclear power. If you want to be developed, you need nuclear power and all that kind of bullshit. Look at them, 25 years. I mean, half of a country needs, and Germany is industrialized country. It's one of the world leaders. It's in the top 3 by economic development. They consume a lot of energy. They got the industries and everything. It's not like a Luxembourg that is like that and doesn't really have anything to spend energy on, apart from TVs and iPhones. You know, I mean, it's well, under European standards, it's a very big country with a big industry that consume a lot of energy. And I mean, like, people, almost everyone was skeptical about it. And look at them now. Half of their needs covered from renewable energy. Zero nuclear power. And not only zero nuclear power, they are not planning to come back to it. You know, especially like the first time, especially the first year after Germany shut down last nuclear reactor, there were a lot of people asking the government, why did you do this? It was good energy, it was so safe, it was safest in Europe, and everything like that. And the government was saying very simple thing back. Like the ministers were coming up and saying like, look guys, it's extremely expensive. It's like, yeah, like if you want a cheap energy, it's not the way to go. Nuclear is just expensive. And that's a #1 reason why the developed country that care about its economic situation should get rid of nuclear. Because as long as you keep it, you're gonna be bankrupt, you know? And I mean, I'm very sorry, but I'm finishing. But on the other side, look, Germany has the border with France. France has like close to 70, a little bit less than 70% of electricity supply coming from nuclear power plant. Their national nuclear company is bankrupt. It was several times saved by the government by giving huge amount of taxpayers' money to cover their budget holes. They don't have money to build new nuclear reactors. They are at the point of when they need to shut down a lot of old reactors, like let's say it's roughly about a dozen of nuclear reactors they would have to shut down in the next 10-15 years approximately. And they need like really a lot of money, roughly between 10 to 20 billion of euro per reactor. They don't have this money. They don't know where to get it. And the only idea they got is that they will push for nuclear inside of the EU and will get access to a common European money, because inside of France, where they are so happy with the nuclear electricity, they are broke. Their nuclear power industry doesn't make money, you know, enough money even to replace old reactors with new reactors. You know, and I mean, you can clearly, no, I mean, France is still developed country, still have a lot of money. But when you look into energy industry and how energy needs covered in both countries, you can see that Germany is a healthy one, you know, and France has absolutely bankrupt nuclear industry, which is the main energy industry in the country, and everyone depends on it, you know. And when there is another hot summer happening, which now is every summer, they stop reactors. I mean, part of the reactors, they would usually stop it for a very simple reason, because of the climate change, water in the rivers, in the lakes, getting too hot to cool reactors. So they have to stop some reactors. They have to reduce output at some reactors just because they don't have enough of a cool water. That's another thing about nuclear power at the time of a climate change. You know, you've got to have cool water, not just any water, but cool water to cool reactors. Otherwise, you shut it down, and then what? Energy deficit.
好，我们如果回到2000年这个时间的分水岭，就是德国跟法国的情况。那大家知道，德国它已经现在目前2025年，它已经没有这个核电它已经其实50%呢是使用再生能源来供电。那其实2000年在他们做这个决定跟福岛核灾无关，因为福岛核灾是2011的事情，所以其实德国早在那之前，在看到这种大规模的世界性的核灾之前，他就已经决定就是他不要那么样的仰赖核电，他一定要就是走出自己的再生能源之路，要完成他的能源转型。所以德国的情况是，他们在2000年做了这样的宣示之后呢，他们也逐步就是去 phase out， 去把这个核电，比如说除役这个电厂一个一个关掉，那搭配他们其他的能源来源。那德国它境内是有17座，当时是有17座电厂，那现在2025呢是已经都关掉了，他们现在也都完全就是使用就是非核能的这个产电来源。那当然在当时也是有很多异议，比如说2000年他宣布这个政策的时候，他说，怎么可能？就是德国你是一个强大的工业国家，你工业化，你有这么多产业，你要仰赖这么多电，你怎么可能说，短短的时间你说我不用核电厂就不用核电厂吗？那所有的产业你都能够照顾到吗？那或者说作为一个已开发国家，你有这个先进的核能不用，那也好好的，好像也没有什么意外的时候，你为什么突然要宣布这样的政策？那德国又不是卢森堡，卢森堡小小的国家，可能它的电都只用来就是开电视跟装 iPhone， 所以那时候在德国，他宣布这个政策，到2025年的现在都还是有一些异议。那甚至说他关掉最后一座反应炉的时候，那时候也是有民众出来抗议啊，就是你真的要关掉吗？核能它好像很安全啊，没有什么问题啊，它稳定便宜的供电，为什么你们就是德国政府一定要这么做呢？那事实上，德国的部长在那个时候，就是最后一个反应炉关掉的时候，他有出来回复，他说大家不知道的是，即便它现在就是所谓正常的运转，可是核能电厂呢，就是你开越久，它花越多钱，因为你要去维修，那或者说它后续这个核废料的问题等等，基本上有核电厂，它其实就是一个所费不赀的一个公共建设，而且呢，它放越久越贵。假设你国内有核电厂，就是不管是几座，其实它迟早会拖到你破产。那讲到破产呢，就是我们来看德国的邻国法国。那法国其实它也是一个大家知道，它是一个也是工业化，也是一个已开发的国家，它大概70%的电力仰赖核电。那它那时候没有，它当然就是继续用它的核电，到现在继续用它的核电。那但是大家知道，法国电力公司已经破产，就是它的核电公司已经破产了，而且破产好几次了。那法国政府也好几次用这个国民的税金去救这个核电公司。那它破产呢，就没有办法盖新的电厂啊，甚至说未来15年它要除役的这些大概1000座的反应炉，就是林林总总这么多的加起来，它也没有钱去除役。那因为它算起来呢，就是因为它越久就花越多钱嘛，就是维修、除役等等都是要钱的。它其实它的预算抓起来是大概是100到200亿欧元这么多，所以对一个已经破产的电力公司来说，然后它这个账单是越拖越大张的时候呢，其实它问题就越来越大条。所以法国它现在做法是在欧洲呢，可能就是刚刚邻国宣称说 ，OK， 我们可以出口电，我们这个核电呢，其实我们可以出口，就是做一些比如说反应炉，我们出口，我们帮你盖之类。但是基本上，法国电力公司它在国内的情况是越来越糟。那刚刚又讲到像是气候变迁，因为法国它电厂有一些是仰赖，比如说他们河水、湖水来冷却。那现在气候变迁，以前会觉得夏天的热浪是偶尔来，现在是每一年都来。所以现在很多法国的核能电厂，它遇到夏天就是温度太高的时候，也只好停摆，因为它本来是要用旁边的河流或者是溪水来冷却，但是没有办法就是做到冷却效果的时候，它也没有办法发电，所以这是目前法国的问题。那我认为就是像刚刚说的，其实有核电厂，它其实你放越久，它其实真的就会成为你这个财政的负担，它是一个财政的黑洞。
好，那谢谢那个Vladimir非常详细的回复。那我们知道现在 slide 上面大概有13个问题，很多。当然我们今天绝对不可能把这些问题全部问完，但我跟大家保证的是，我们会把这些问题到时候再翻译之外，然后就会再寄给在这个Vladimir等他度完假之后，或者是度完假之后，看看他有没有这部分有些回复，然后我们会在刊载在我们的台湾气候行动网络研究中心的官网上面，所以请大家记得要去发我们的脸书或者LinkedIn，这样的话才能够掌握到这相关的一个资讯。好，那我现在等一下先开放现场，看我们现场还有时间可以有1或2个问题，然后之后的话我们再请那个线上。好，那我们等一下2个问题的话，一个是先请那个淑德姐，然后再的话等一下再请那个焦点事件的志豪这样子。
谢谢今天有这个机会来把一些 以及知道一点点或者是更多的细节，还有地缘政治的互动。我想问的是，以台湾现在的核电厂那个都做完，在进入处理的，但是民众看法还没有更新到，就是还有一些那个就两三方都有。可是面对中国来的威胁，包括中国的研发，有盖这么多核电厂，然后他们对于台湾的就是境外这种核灾风险也好，或者是我们面临战争的时候，我们在心理上，或者是我们在实际的资讯战跟那个我们至少今天来听的，我们应该有什么样的准备，或者是从俄乌战争
how should people be prepared? What are your recommendations? I mean, how can we prepare people's brain facing the threat from the nuclear power plants along the Chinese coast?
That's a good question. Well, my answer probably would not be very, I don't know, environmental organizations, human rights organizations, basically civil society is always doing, first of all, one thing, it's informing people. It's informing people about threats, it's informing people about danger. I think it's very important, here in Taiwan and also, it's very important to educate people as much as we can, to distribute as much information as we can, so that people know what are the actual threats and what are false threats, what they should do if accident happens. I mean, it's everywhere like this, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter whether it's Taiwan or Russia or anywhere else. I mean, what we need from society is that society understand the risks we're talking about and react adequately to these risks.
我觉得这是一个好问题，真的不容易回答。我觉得像世界各地，不管是人权团体，或者说是公民社会团体等等，其实大家做的事情都是在分享，或者说是布达一些讯息。那这些讯息可能是关于我们面对的威胁，或者我们面对的风险，这些危险。那我觉得也不只是台湾，其实我们如何去想象这些比如说威胁的样态、它的形貌，这都是不容易做的事情。但是这也是刚刚讲的，像 NGO 或者说是人权团体或者公民社会团体一直在努力要做的事情，包括说面对意外来袭时该怎么办。那我觉得现在也许就只能就是社会它需要什么样的讯息？我觉得社会最需要的是就是当我们面对风险，风险是什么样子？那还有可以如何因应？我觉得这个是就是当我们面对像您刚刚提到，就是有这样子在中国海岸的核武威胁的时候，就是核电厂盖那么多的时候，去看清楚风险它实际的样貌，还有我们知道要如何反应。这两件事情是我们透过比如说公民团体或者其他的 NGO 现在可以做，我们也希望可以做到的事情。
The situation you mentioned, that there is a Chinese coast and there are nuclear power plants. I mean, I can compare it to a situation in Europe where, for example, Germans been for a very long time very unhappy about nuclear power plants that on the border, just around the border in the neighboring countries. And well, Germany did shut down nuclear power plants. Some nuclear power plants shut down just recently in Belgium. Also power plants. I mean, there are Netherlands as well. So it happens, and unfortunately, we cannot really do anything. We have to live with this risk when the country next to ours using nuclear technology. Well, unfortunately, there is risk. Unfortunately, we could be suffering. If accident happening, just like they will be suffering, but that's the reality. I mean, it's just like with climate change in some way. We cannot really do anything to stop climate change. I mean, it's happening. We cannot do anything for it to disappear. But we can do steps of, well, in case of a climate change, we need to think about the steps of adaptation. What we can do to limit the damage in the future. And in case of nuclear is the same. I think we should think about how we can limit the damage to us in the future, possible damage, and try to, work out our own steps. If something bad happens, how we going to reduce the damage?
我觉得，如果再回到欧洲的例子的话，像是德国，即便他们现在已经就是所有的核电厂都除役，可是其实像他们邻国，比如说比利时核电厂，他们其实核电厂最近就是这1-2年才关闭。所以比如说德国的例子是，他可能他们觉得我们不要再继续用核能，但是他没有办法阻止他的邻国，他还是要必须就是存在，就是生存在这个事实之下，就是我的隔壁的国家的邻居，他们还是在用核电，那就这样吧。所以我觉得，其实面对我们的邻国，他在使用核电厂，甚至造成了威胁，我觉得可能没有办法去逆转这个事实，就有点像是气候变迁一样，你没有办法说去阻止气候变迁。我们所能做的事情，就像面对气候变迁的时候，我们做的事情可能是去做一些调试或者一些调整，或者说我们去做风险的控管，去限制说它可能未来造成的伤害。我们只能从风险或者灾害控管的角度来思考了。首先要去接受这个现实，我们没有办法逆转它。
然后再请那个焦点事件的记者志豪，
那个刚刚讲者有提到那个西方跟东方的核工业，我觉得是有趣的概念。那我想这应该不是地理上的问题，而是比较政治上的，因为比方说日本跟韩国应该是属于西方的核工业，那中国是东方的核工业。那我想问的是，俄罗斯会怎么看待中国的核工业？中国的核工业在这20年快速的发展，那甚至有开始在想要外销。那从它的外销来说，它可能是会与俄罗斯的核工业有经济上的冲突，甚至是在地缘政治上也会跟俄罗斯有它的这个基础建设输出的竞争。所以俄罗斯或者罗萨腾会怎么看待中国的核工业的崛起？那我想问第二个问题。
Yeah. Thank you very much. Very interesting question. I mean, I have to maybe even apologize. I mean, it's for us Russians. I mean, I was growing up in a country where people were like separating the world to the West and non-West. And often we were saying, instead of non-West, we were just saying East. But it's true, yeah. If we talk about the how countries set up and the business and everything, yeah, the South Korea and Japan, more like part of the Western, well, at least having Western standards, let's say. It's interesting, the relationship between Russia and China, very interesting. We could not see so far any kind of sign that they are competing. And Russians are happy to build new power plants in China. And it's kind of interesting. I think China is okay about somebody going in and building them more reactors so they get more energy. And when Russians coming and building their reactors, it's from Russian budget money coming. It's not paid by China, at least immediately. Nobody pays the Russians. They use their own money. And for Russia, I think it's a matter of, well, in some way, I think they're thinking about dependence. Because, I mean, even if China got a lot more of nuclear plants and other plants, still part of those plants depend on Russian fuel. And China would not be capable of producing this fuel itself. So Russia is thinking, why not make China a little bit dependent on Russian fuel as well. They are not competing in SMRs, they are not competing in big reactors, they are, I mean, Russia needs China now, especially because of the war in Ukraine, extremely needs it. Without China, Russia would be bankrupt by now and the war would be stopped. The friendship with China and the fact that China is buying a lot from Russia over the resources, first of all, it helps very much, and we've heard a lot of reports about that China is supplying like a military stuff also for Russia to continue war. I mean, it's really hard to say why they are not feeling as a competitors in nuclear. Maybe it's just, I mean, my guess would be that it's a matter of a governmental decisions. Because for Vladimir Putin, nuclear industry, I would say it's not so much important at home, but it's very important geopolitically to spread Russian nuclear power reactors around the world and make other countries dependent on Russia. For China, it looks like they are not using, so far, they are not using nuclear technology as the way to create dependence on them around the world. So it's just a different attitude. I believe they also have geopolitical goals, of course, but they just probably reaching those goals with different instruments. I think that's why there is no competition.
那我想说的是，首先要抱歉，因为我们这种这个西方跟东方的分法，就是俄国人，不好意思，我从小就这样长大的。因为我们这个西方跟非西方，就是在欧洲，我们像欧洲本位一点，就是西欧跟非西欧，到后来就直接讲东方。那的确，您说的像日本跟韩国，的确它也是比较开发，或者说技术上呢，它比较接近所谓的西方的阵营。那中俄之间的关系，中国跟俄国呢，我必须说，其实。我一直看不出来他们之间有一个实质的竞争关系，看不出来。那为什么呢？我也在想，那其实俄国到目前它还是持续在帮中国盖新的这个核电厂哦。比如说像for example in Rosatom, actually their website they have really good Chinese language translation and there are a lot. 像是刚刚讲到的俄罗斯国家原子能公司，如果大家有兴趣看它的网站上，它的简中界面非常完整，就有布达很多他们持续在中国的这些工程。那一直在说他们在中国就盖了多少的反应炉，那现在什么时候要开始施工？完工等等，所以他们的合作是相当密切的。就是俄国它持续在中国用俄国的预算帮它盖，就是帮中国盖核电厂。那中国也跟这个俄国买燃料，那盖核电厂的费用一样也是用俄国出，所以这部分来说他们是很紧密的。那你说中国它也是有在出口一些核工业，可是它的做法比较不像是俄国完全是作为一个就是地缘政治的手段。那中国比较像是它卖可能纯粹就是商业上它去出口一些东西，这部分呢跟俄国比较没有实际的冲突，或者非常的微小。那因为俄国现在在打仗，它也相当的仰赖中国。那中国可能跟俄国购入了大量的一些可能物资，就是给他大量的金元，所以俄国才不会说真的没有钱去打仗。他把这些中国给他的钱，跟他买的军火军力，甚至中国也协助俄国输出一些军力等等。其实这部分他们是合作相当密切的。那至于他们为什么不竞争？假设他们是有这个能力可以竞争的话，我猜是因为政府的决定吧。因为呢，普丁他可能觉得就是核能的发展，对普丁来说真的就是它是一个就是控制外交或者地缘政治的手段，他非常重视这件事情。反而核能在俄国境内的发展还没有这么样的风生水起，或者这么样的快速。那中国呢，就是目前看起来，就像刚刚说，它有一些小型的一些输出，有帮忙盖一些，但是我并不认为它会走上俄国那种就是地缘政治的手段之路，以核能的输出来说。
简单问，
阶段。
我想问一下，罗萨统跟俄罗斯政府的关系是什么？我举两个极端的例子，比方说我们讲 G1 跟西屋的话，它是独立的公司，但高度的配合政府的和工业政策。但比方说中国的中核、中广核，它其实是政策的直接的执行者。我想问的是，罗萨统跟俄罗斯政府之间的关系会比较像是怎么样？
Like how much they are like in one unit in one body, so like you said, it's a governmental body.
Well, first of all, even if big industry and the government everywhere would be closed, It doesn't mean that one is part of another. And that's what more or less the situation is in Western countries. You can see that, well, for example, GE or Westinghouse or anyone, if they're going for a foreign deal, for a foreign contract in another country, they would never get all the money they need from their government. Part of the money, yeah, possible. There are export credits, there are different mechanisms to support exporters. It's true, but it's only part, and it's not the biggest part. Usually Western companies would always have to go to commercial banks and take money from there in order to build something in another country. With Russian nuclear industry, it's totally opposite. If Russian nuclear industry sign a contract with another country, it will get all 100% of money from the state budget. There would be a governmental loan officially for another country to cover the costs. Like, for example, I mentioned during my speech situation in Hungary, there is a contract for 2 new nuclear reactors, and Russia gave a loan of 10 billion of euro to Hungary 11 years ago, which is covering about 90% of costs. So basically, Russia is the only country in the world that provides the whole necessary capital to build nuclear power plant. So if some country decided to cooperate with Rosatom and build nuclear power plant, it wouldn't have to go for money anywhere else. So it would be possible. Russians is the only ones who are doing this. Well, the best illustration of what is Rosatom is that it's company that managing nuclear weapon. I mean, there is a law about Rosatom in Russia, and this law says that this company is responsible for designing, maintaining nuclear weapon in Russia. That's why I was saying during my speech that Rosatom is not any kind of business company. And it's not business company that is close to government. It's part of the government. I mean, it used to be Ministry of Atomic Power until 2007, and it changed the name in order that people like you in other countries who do not really know situation would think that if it's called corporation, then it's probably some kind of business and not the government. But well, not in this case. In this case, it's Russian government.
那我也顺便更正一下刚刚这个翻译的口误。其实呢 ，Rosatom 它的前身它其实就是俄国的原子能部，它一直到2007年才改名。所以其实他刚刚这个演讲当中有讲，可是我可能没有翻清楚。所以如果要问这个 Rosatom 就是俄罗斯国家原子能公司，虽然叫做公司，它跟俄国的关系的话，那刚刚您提到就是像一些西方国家这些公司或者是大型产业跟政府的关系，没错，其实任何一个产业在任何一个国家，它只要够大，其实跟政府的关系不会太差，还是相当程度的，就是跟政府要维持密切的关系。比如说像奇异好了，或者说是像这些西方的公司工业，它要做外国投资的时候，假设它也是到外国去盖电厂，它要输出某些基建、元件等等，它其实政府可能会给它一些补贴，例如说可能有一些外交的时候，它要输出的时候给它一些，比如说租税减免，或者说是像这些西方的公司，可能是找银行，它要先去贷款，然后先做这些，它总要叫料，或者说是有一些基础的成本，他们会走这种跟银行贷款的模式，然后政府给予部分的补贴再出去。但是俄国的情况完全不一样，除了刚刚说它的前身2007年之前，它其实就是他们的原子能部门，就是政府的一个单位之外呢，俄国它要在国外就是盖，或者说是它要输出他们的核电厂的时候，那比较像是国与国之间的借贷关系。就像刚刚讲的匈牙利的例子，俄国它是以政府的名义 ，OK， 俄国政府借给匈牙利政府这个100亿欧元的这个贷款，就是让俄国来帮你盖一个电厂，然后就是11年前到现在，那就是90%的预算是用来盖电厂。基本上是这样，所以其实这也是世界上只有俄国他会这么做，就是用国家的预算，他今天跟你签约之后，我在某个国家要盖电厂，其实拿的就是直接俄国政府编预算，把它以国与国之间借贷的方式把钱给你。 就是你可以说它是金援，所以就变成很多国家它可能要盖核电厂的时候，它直接找俄国，它连钱都不用出了。那当然，我必须说，就是俄罗斯国家原子能公司，它不是一个真的独立的在商言商的公司，它就是像它之前，它只是改名，它现在叫做 Rosatom， 它听起来 Operation Rosatom， 只是听起来像是一个公司，就是不要让大家就是看穿它原来背后其实就是俄国政府罢了。
好，那谢谢。
谢谢大家参与，因为这个场地上面有一些时间的关系，还有我们的团体的运作经费上面限制，没有办法租了更长的时间的，所以我们就今天的讲座到今天结束。那我相信，因为台塑化应该不会那么简单的就停止购买俄罗斯的化石燃料，所以我相信Vladimir明年搞不好又要再来一次台湾。如果他明年度又来的时候，我们就会看到大家这一次踊跃参与的这个情况的话，我们明年度可以再做一些相对的一些安排。所以这个部分的话，我们会再继续努力。那如果大家要知道说今天的这个演讲后续的一些相关的一个记录，然后以及像我们录影来讲的话，都请可以追踪我们的中文或者是脸书，我们英文或者是我们的 LinkedIn 都会有一些相关的资讯会把它释出，然后也会把它在 Slido 上面一些提问来讲的话，也会收集完之后，让Vladimir知道我们比较关注的一些焦点。好，那再次谢谢大家的参与，谢谢大家。
好，谢谢大家。